I do like your theme, by the way.
Oh, the intro music?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, actually, I'll take this opportunity to remember to do a shout out to John, who was on a few episodes ago. Thank you, John, again for doing the theme song for Movies from Green Hell. It is awesome. Completely forgot to even say that when I spoke to you. So, whoops. Welcome to the latest episode of Movies from Green Hell, the movie podcast where we delve into films with heavy metal soundtracks, terrible stoner movies, and other such nonsense. I'm Dylan, and joining me for this episode is Andy Davis from the band Eat.
Hey, how are you?
I'm good. Actually dropped off a shirt to Andy last year, I think it was, for a memorial shirt for our buddy.
Yes, you did. That is correct. You dropped one off for John Hopkins. Yeah, the blue-orange shirt, or the orange shirt.
Yes. Dropped off the shirt for Andy, and then got to see your band open up for Matt Pike at St. Vitus Bar right around Desert Fest time. It was a Monday.
That was a really fun night. I ended up smoking a lot of marijuana that night for some reason. I don't know. Not entirely sure how that happened.
So yeah, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your band Eat?
Sure. Well, first I'd like to apologize that we're not meeting under better circumstances today. We have to talk about the thing that we have to talk about, but
it is unfortunate.
Boy, oh boy. Yeah. So I play guitar in a band called Eat, where we've been playing together for almost 10 years. I still don't really know quite how to describe what we do. More of a Melvinsy stoner vibe, but also with a lot of punk rock influence. We all play just kind of what we like, and we're not shy about telling everybody in the band that we don't like that, and then we just let it go. And so every song that we play is something that everybody in the band has agreed is something that sounds like us.
I would call it weird rock.
Well, thank you. I was in a band in high school, and we were described once as Muppet Rock, which I thought was very fitting. We were all just these skinny little kids just bounced around on the stage.
Were there any Muppets involved?
We did do a cover of the River Bottom Nightmare Band song from Em and Otter's Jug Band Christmas.
But no actual Muppets.
No, boy, those are some hazy times. But I don't believe so. I think I actually did have a stuffed animal hanging off my guitar for a little while there. But
I mean, Muppet Rock, that still sounds like a subgenre that could be. I'm sure it's a thing. I'm sure
right
out there.
I would not doubt it.
Well, one of the things that you had when you played live was involved video projection of which was just weird stuff. I'm sure you just found on the internet or something, public domain and whatnot. I've always enjoyed shit like that. Does that stem from your interest in horror movies and other weird cinema?
Actually, I could almost pinpoint that directly back. It was weird. I was looking for some stuff to add to it. And I came across the Church of the Subgenius, their old recruitment video, which was something that was going around in the late 80s on a videotape. You can find it on YouTube now. And it is exactly that kind of shit. It's just a bunch of random stuff with kind of an underlying theme, and then pictures of Bob Dobbs, his face on there. And I went, oh my God, this is where this came from. This is where this video shit came from. And of course, Butthole Surfers doing their stuff, but they did it way better than I ever could. We're not going to put in backwards footage of sexual assignment surgeries into our thing. We have a couple teachers in the band, so we're not going to quite go there. But yeah, that stuff I love working on that stuff. That's the kind of thing late at night. Just give me 4 hours, and as long as I'm getting my my ability to rip from YouTube, which of course I don't do, but if I could get that going, then that's usually pretty easy. It's a lot of fun.
We talked about it briefly when I was dropping off your T-shirt, but I know you're also into horror movies and whatnot. Mm-hmm. So, kind of, what's your sweet spot for horror? Is there kind of a genre that you enjoy, or a specific brand of it, or do you just kind of like all of it?
It's a lot of all of it. I'm not like big into the torture porn, although there's some really good gore scenes to be gleaned from them. But I think as a whole, it just gets repetitive and boring. Generally, I'm an '80s kid, so like the '80s stuff with the practical effects and all that kind of thing. I just watched what the hell is it called? Mysterious Island with the old Ray Harryhausen movie, and that just got me right in the feels. Like seeing the wasps, trapping people in honeycomb and stuff was really cool. Even if it does look a little weird, but it's still, I don't know, just it feels like someone cared. Obviously, if it's kind of corny and stupid, if I'm laughing more than I'm, not looking at the screen, then the happier I am.
Well, I mean, you check in often and are watching some fucking far out shit stuff I've never fucking heard of. Like look at it, I'm like, what in Christ's name? Like, I didn't even know this existed.
So I worked at Lucky 13 Saloon for about 15 years, and while I was there, I was kind of the unofficial curator of the movies down there. So I used to have it was my job to, like, every week or twice a week or whatever, to try to bring in something that either I haven't seen or I'm pretty sure most people there haven't seen, just for a reason to get people to come to the place. And I'm still getting through it because Netflix shut down its DVD department. That'll be at the end of September. My queue is still like 160 fucking movies in that thing. And most of those you can't find online for free. So it's like, I want to try to get through these. So I'm actually kind of hustling to get through a bunch of them right now. And boy, there's a lot of shit on that queue. Some real garbage that I was going to subject to my poor suspecting customers.
You're probably the only person I know that actually still uses the mail DVD function for Netflix.
Yeah, it is because I'll send you a list. Like, again, like I would say, of the 160 movies I have on this queue, you really cannot find at least like 65-70% without actually having to like open up your wallet and spend a lot of money.
What do you think is like the most obscure thing you've seen? Like, just what, like, how was this even made? Who made this? Why was this made? Today's movie doesn't count.
Well, today's movie was made to make money, and it didn't even do that. So God. There's God, what the fuck are they called? The Necrophiles, parts 1 and 2. That was my friend Ralph. He's another horror movie buff, and like same cut from the same cloth. And he had found this thing. It was on a videotape way back in the day, and it's this demon with a huge rubber dick running around, sticking it wherever he wants. And then there's a baby on a wire that's floating around eating people. And it's really, really stupid, but there's just something really endearing about it. That's just like, these guys are having the best time of their lives. And so much so they made part 2. Yeah, so my brother tracked that down. My brother's the secret weapon I have. He's Mr. Computer Guy. He's really good at tracking all this shit down. He actually started making a bunch of the mixtapes specifically for the bar. That when I left, I was an asshole and took them all with me.
They were that good.
Well, yeah.
Well, I don't know if I will ever be able to see that, but it sounds ridiculous. I'm definitely going to.
I will lend it to you. I actually have. I have got a copy of both of those.
Oh, I mean, it sounds at least worth checking out.
It is amazing.
$100 movie made on like a camcorder.
Yeah. I've never seen it with the sound on, so I'm not sure I'd recommend that.
Oh.
Which oddly enough ties into this movie. I know I've had this Alone in the Dark at Lucky 13, and we watched it at night with the sound off. I don't think anybody even noticed it was on.
It's probably how you should watch this movie.
Oddly enough, because what endeared it to you then to me is the soundtrack, which I don't know. Again, we'll get into that in a minute, but what the hell was I talking about? I hate this movie. That's what I was talking about.
Not to bury the lead, but yeah. So we watched 2005's Alone in the Dark, directed by, for a long time pronounced this gentleman's name Uwe Boll, but I believe it's actually pronounced Uwe Boll. Which, sure. I probably will wind up just saying Uwe Boll because that's just how I said it for so many years in high school.
I'll call him incompetent nincompoop.
You explained like that this was the best use of this film is a background thing in a bar. So you don't actually have to hear what is coming out of the people's mouths in this movie because, good Lord, is it fucking stupid and fucking bad.
Yeah. I remember, so I moved to New York in 2004, and this came out in 2005, and I was still reading the New York Post every Friday just for the movie reviews, because the movie reviews were pretty funny. And I remember the review for this, and I tried to find it online so I could exactly quote it, but it's not there. And they had a particular bone to pick with the casting of Tara Reid as a scientist. You know, and they said the only reason why you'd cast a Tara Reid in your movie as a scientist is because you want an actress who will take her shirt off, and she doesn't even do that.
It's a remarkably tame movie.
Yeah.
And like in all regards, it's like, it's just like so neutral when it comes to that. It's not exciting in terms of like, there's none of that. There's like no gratuity. There's none of, it's just like, wow, this is, they just kind of walked around and made a movie, I guess.
There's a lot of voiceover where Christian Slater says, I remember there was like early in the movie, he's like, I had all these horrible things happen to me in my childhood, but we'll skip over that or something. What was the exact line? I actually have it written down. Oh, you'll just have to believe me. Because we're not going to film any of this. Like, that might be exciting to watch, a baby Christian Slater getting terrorized by demons. That'd be,
come on, like, why would you show that? That doesn't sound cool. Like, yeah, the incompetence a very good way to describe this movie. The extent of my knowledge of this movie was similar to yours. I remember it being savaged by folks on the internet and saying, you know, at the time, I'll never watch this. And now I have watched it. Did you ever play any of the games that it was based on? Because for anybody that's not in the know, Uwe Boll makes a lot of movies based on video games.
Based on video games. Now, I'm surprisingly, I'm not much of a gamer. I know my personality too well. Like a long time ago, I had the PS2 and I got whatever the second Grand Theft Auto was. And I didn't leave my house for like a week. And I'm like, I would like to leave my house. I don't want to be tethered to a fucking video games. That's just my personality. So I avoid playing them because I like playing them too much.
Gotcha. I never played any of the games. They are definitely, I think, before my time. It was more of like a PC thing, and there's a lot of them. For context, particularly for the debut game of Alone in the Dark, they are widely acknowledged as an early instance of survival horror video games and often credited with the creation of that subgenre.
Sure, I hear they're fine.
The original story was based on the writings of H.P. Lovecraft. Later games in the series drew inspiration from other sources, including Voodoo, the Wild West, and the works of H.R. Giger. So overall, just sounds very cool.
Boy, I didn't see any of that.
6 installments of the series have been created with various themes and locations, as you said.
It was so inspired by it that it transcended it all. So we couldn't quite figure out what that was.
Well, this, again, quote, adaptation is very loosely based on the video game series. Some plot elements and characters are taken from the 2001 entry Alone in the Dark, The New Nightmare. The plot of the movie is mostly an original story.
Okay.
So to just kind of go over who Uwe Boll is for anybody that is not in the know, although I think most people by now are in the know. Uwe Boll was definitely like an early internet phenomenon, which I think is something very interesting.
He's an interesting character.
Yeah, he is an interesting, if kind of repulsive character of, you know, the early.
I wouldn't trust him alone in my living room for 5 minutes, but he's an interesting person.
He's a German filmmaker. This movie is generally considered one of the worst films ever made. He's made a lot of video game adaptations, and they're generally critical and commercial failures. But his films during the 2010s, comprising mostly of original projects and independent movies, received home media releases to better, although still mostly negative reviews.
Yeah, he was doing something with German tax shelter too, like using, I forget what it was. When he would finance his movies, he would hide the finances through a German tax shelter. So basically, he was cheating people out of money to make these movies.
Yeah, that doesn't sound sketchy at
all. I'm not a financier at all. I'm not quite sure. I know that this is some shady bullshit that he was doing. He also liked to physically fight his critics, which I kind of.
Oh, yeah. Well, we definitely have to talk about that. But also, after retiring in 2016, he became a restaurateur, and then he returned to filmmaking in 2020 and has been at it ever since,
So
unfortunately.
sounds like his restaurant failed too.
Yeah, I don't think they did great.
If I could take a stab at it, I'm not as familiar with his actual films. I'm more about his notoriety than anything. This seems like, just watching it, this seems like one that he was kind of trying to take seriously.
I think,
and I know that the later ones, he really didn't give a fuck and just made them silly on purpose.
I think so. Yeah, I think he was definitely trying to make a movie here, which is weird because the movie that I think most people probably got to know him for in the United States was the House of the Dead adaptation, which I heard about it, and it seems just like it's like a bonkers film.
It is bonkers, and it's heads and tails way more entertaining than this.
Yeah, I think with that one, because it just seems like it's on speed the whole time, and it just goes for like 80, 90 minutes, however fucking long it is. This movie is like grim, and there's a lot of like walking and pouting and
so much walking,
and they're trying to make it real serious, and it's just not. But in addition to those two, he also did the Blood Rain adaptation, In the Name of the King, which is a dungeon siege adaptation. He did the Blood Rain sequel, Deliverance, Postal. He did not do Alone in the Dark.
Oh, that's right. He did Postal. Poor Dave Foley was so broke at that time.
He did the Far Cry adaptation, and then he's done a whole bunch of other movies, including Rampage, a movie called Auschwitz, which I don't think I will be watching anytime soon.
Might skip that one.
Blubberella, which I've heard is borderline unwatchable. Assault on Wall Street.
Ooh, very progressive.
He's on to his third entry in the Rampage series. He had a movie come out last year called Hanau, Deutschland im Winter Part 1, and he's got 3 more on the way. First Shift, 12 Hours, and Ness. He also wanted to direct the Metal Gear Solid movie adaptation at one point, but
someone wrestled that away from him, I hope.
Hideo Kojima said, "We will never work with him." Now, you mentioned that he fights his critics, and yes, this is very true, because back in 2006, Boll made headlines by challenging his critics to put up or shut up. In that year, his production company issued a press release stating that Boll would challenge his 5 harshest critics each to a 10-round boxing match. Invitations were also open to film directors Quentin Tarantino and Roger Avary. To qualify, critics had to have written 2 extremely negative reviews of Boll in print or on the web. Footage from the fights were to be included on the DVD of his upcoming film Postal. On June 20th, 2006, Rich Lotax Kayanka stated on Something Awful that he had been invited by Boll to be the first contestant after he reviewed it. The online gambling site Golden Palace decided to sponsor the event, dubbing it Raging Boll, a play on the 1980 Scorsese film. That's
the most clever thing to come out of this guy.
A lot was drawn up in late August 2006, featuring Kayanka, Rue Morgue magazine writer Chris Alexander, webmaster of Cinecature Carlos Palencia Jimenez Arguello, Ain't It Cool news writer Jeff Snyder, and Chance Minter, amateur boxer and website critic. Boll fought and won against all 5 participants. The first match took place on September 5th, 2006 in Estepona, Spain against Carlos Palencia. The others battled on September 23rd, 2006 at the Plaza of Nations in Vancouver, Canada. After Kayanka lost his match, he would go on to make several allegations against Boll, including a claim that Boll refused to fight against Chance Minter, who was an experienced amateur boxer. However, Boll fought Minter as his 4th opponent. He also alleged that Boll had misled them by claiming it was a PR stunt when he actually intended to fight them, and that Boll stated that would get training before the match, which none did. There's actually a very good web documentary on YouTube about this. I got to look up the guy's name.
I think I would watch that. Yeah,
it's very interesting. It chronicles this whole thing, and I would highly recommend you check it out. And it's the channel is called Oki's Weird Stories, and the video is called Uwe Boll, the director who boxed his critics. 16 minutes long, a little over 16 minutes long. Well worth your time to check out.
I will definitely watch that.
Yeah, I remember when this happened, and we were baffled. We couldn't believe that it actually went down, which just goes to show you that
the early 2000s were a weird fucking time.
Yeah, really weird. And it's strange because there's a lot of weird shit that's happening right now. And yet I don't think something like this could happen now. I feel like this is very much rooted in the era in which it happened. I don't think it's so weird. Also, Lotax passed away, I think last year or the year before. And he was the guy who created Something Awful or administered it or something like that. So just, this was all part of the early days of the internet. And it's weird how this movie and Uwe Boll sort of existed in that space.
Sure.
Very, very strange.
They kind of fed off each other, I think.
Yeah, and to kind of get back to the turd at hand,
we're avoiding that, aren't we?
This movie was written by Blair Erickson. He came up with the first drafts of the script for the movie, and according to him, Uwe Boll suggested through various email exchanges, that it would turn it from a thriller into an action film. And Erickson stated his disgust at the treatment and spoke negatively of his working relationship with Boll on Something Awful. Something Awful is just like the big root for all of the controversy around this movie, I guess we'll call it. He says the original script took the Alone in the Dark premise and depicted it as if it were actually based on a true story of a private investigator in the northeastern U.S. whose missing persons cases begin to uncover a disturbing paranormal secret. It was told through the eyes of a writer following Edward Carnby and his coworker for a novel, and depicted them as real-life blue-collar folks who never expected to find hideous beings waiting for them in the dark. We tried to stick close to the H.P. Lovecraft style and the low-tech nature of the original game, always keeping the horror in the shadows, so you never saw what was coming for them.
Instead, what we got Christian Slater on an airplane talking to a smart-ass kid and then going, "You don't know the real truth." And sounding like a fucking QAnon guy for the next 5 minutes.
This whole movie just felt like a conspiracy theory.
Yeah, not even a good one.
And exactly, not even a good one.
Erickson, like the flat Earth guys would be like, I don't know.
Erickson continues, thankfully, Dr. Boll was able to hire his loyal team of hacks to crank out something much better than our crappy story and add in all sorts of terrifying horror movie essentials like opening gateways to alternate dimensions, bimbo blonde archaeologists, sex scenes. There was no sex scene in this movie.
Tara Reid and Christian Slater made it out to that one song for a little bit, but
that's not really like sex.
This is like
sexy at all.
From what I heard, I heard Tara Reid balked at the so Uwe Boll's like, "Hey, you gotta take your shirt off in the scene." She goes, "Nope," and they couldn't convince her, but they'd already paid her and it wasn't in her contract. So she said, "Well, I'll never hire you again." She's like, "Great, I don't want to be in your fucking movies after this."
I don't blame her. He said he added in a 10-minute opening backstory scroll read aloud to illiterate the audience, the only people able to successfully miss all the negative reviews. So he's take a shot at him there. As a result of all this, there were 7 distinct scripts in circulation without a consensus as to which one was actually used for the filming of the movie.
Oh, wow.
Which is insane.
That makes sense.
So we have Christian Slater as Edward Carnby. He was raised
as angry guy in overcoat.
Oh my God, his overcoat is ridiculous in this movie. It's so long and billowy. He just looks like Batman if he just put on the cape and forgot to put on everything else. So I'm a bartender. He reminds me of about every know-it-all, smart-ass guys after like 6 shots of whiskey are just like, "What you just don't know, man, because you're not paying any attention to what's real in the world." And I'm like, just shut the fuck up. Get out. They all sound like they're doing a bad Jack Nicholson accent, too.
Yeah.
As we also mentioned Tara Reid.
We certainly did.
Aline Cedric, an archaeologist and museum curator.
She's smart because she wears glasses.
Yeah, as you said, Boll stated on various occasions that he regretted having Tara Reid in the movie. He actually originally wanted Christian Bale and Jessica Alba for the leads. I can't imagine why they passed on this.
I can't imagine Jessica Alba lifting her no nudity clause for this movie either.
And I think Christian Bale was like, "Sorry, gotta go make a Batman movie."
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's right about that same time, isn't it?
Yeah, well, he made the right decision.
Yeah, I think so.
Her casting as an archaeologist received criticism upon announcement, as she had best been known for playing ditzy party girl characters prior to, and it just sort of didn't make any sense. And you know what? It doesn't make any sense.
Well, here's the thing. I'm all for an actor or an actress or performer, spreading their wings and then learning more about the craft and doing something that maybe is a little bit out of their wheelhouse. But she wasn't even good at doing the bubbly stuff. Like she's just a kind of shitty actress.
Yeah, I mean, she's not great. She's also from the town over from where I grew up.
Oh,
we're fellow New Jersey. I guess transplants now. I assume that Tara Reid does not live in New Jersey anymore.
No, I don't think she can afford New Jersey anymore.
Not many of us can.
All right. And then there's Stephen Dorff.
Yeah, easily the highlight of this movie, and he is just so Stephen Dorff in this movie.
He's trying, and you know what? Yeah, there's a scene where he's flying a helicopter, and it's voiceover because most of the dialogue is voiceover, and I couldn't tell if it was him or Christian Slater talking. I'm not even joking. I'm like, what? And then like finally, I'm like, okay, no, he doesn't sound enough like Jack Nicholson, so that's gotta be Stephen.
Yeah, it's weird that you would put these two guys in this movie. They just have the same energy.
Exactly.
And I guess Christian Slater's kind of been able to redeem himself a little bit. I know he had a pretty fun guest appearance on Archer when I was watching that for a while. But Stephen Dorff has mostly been doing the bad direct-to-DVD, direct-to-streaming action movies and all that stuff. But he is in the new season of The Righteous Gemstones, which I'm a big fan of that show.
Oh, yeah, I haven't seen that yet. That's on my list. He was doing commercials for the fake cigarettes there for a while, too.
Okay, well, that seems like an appropriate thing for Stephen Dorff to be in. I mean, he is just fucking so ridiculous in Blade. Like, that's the thing that I know him the most from. He was also great in The Gate. Oh yeah, another movie we watched on here. A very little teeny tiny Stephen Dorff. This is a Stephen Dorff stan account. Given the fact that this movie is pretty awful, there is one thing that is actually might be better than Stephen Dorff on that. Okay. And that's the soundtrack. And which is why I agreed to watch this, because you sent me the soundtrack list. I went, holy fuck, like I probably should watch this. It is insane how many fucking bands are on this soundtrack. And it was Nuclear Assault or Nuclear Blast. Nuclear Blast Records. Yeah. They put out the soundtrack. It was a 2-disc set. And you'd think with all those songs they had to choose from, they'd show up in the movie somewhere. Again, this is one of those movies like The Scorpion King where it's just like stacked with pretty big name bands. I do think Resident Evil had a lot of the music in the movie. This I think has 2 songs of the. They might have stuck in an extra one at the ending credits. They might have done like a mashup of 1 or 2. But yeah, the first song. So there's 37 songs on the soundtrack, and you got like 2 to 3 of them. And I actually had it written down when the first song finally actually shows up. It was 53 minutes into the movie. Yeah, and the whole time that I'm watching this movie, I'm like, where is this music? And on top of that, so they actually had the rights to songs clearly because they're on the soundtrack, one would assume. And there's all these chase scenes and fight scenes that could really use some music, but instead they've got like stock, like drum noise and like breathing noise and like ambient bullshit that, like a Diva Borgia would sound really good in this scene. It might actually elevate it, but no. Yeah. That would take research and talent. They spent $30,000 on the soundtrack. And then they didn't do a fucking thing with it. I mean, that's infuriating. I'm assuming now it would probably be a lot more, but like, so it's 37 songs and there's some shit. They dropped less than $1,000 for the rights, roughly, for like every song. I mean, maybe some more than others because some of the bands are a little bit bigger or whatever. But let's take a look at some of these bands here. Yeah, we'll run through it here. We'll just run right through it. We got. I'm not going to say the songs. I'll just say the bands. And if you do want to listen to this, there is a playlist on Spotify, which is I went through and listened to it last few days. Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of every one of these bands, but I mean, There's
37 bands.
more than others, but we'll run through it. But I mean, it's regardless, just in terms of like name and notoriety, like this is stacked. And it's 2.5 hours worth of music. You got Dimmu Borgir, Shadows Fall, Fear Factory, In Flames, Strapping Young Lad,
Napalm Death, Anthrax, The Haunted, Exodus,
Dillinger Escape Plan, Meshuggah,
early Meshuggah.
Yeah, Cradle of Filth, Nightwish, Arch Enemy, Death Angel, Mastodon. Fucking Mastodon.
Jesus Christ. How could you fuck this up?
You put Blood and Thunder on a soundtrack and you don't include it in the movie. Crazy. What else? Suffocation, Cataclysm, Bloodbath, All Shall Perish, Samael, Dying Fetus, The Haunted, Nemec, Ducent. I had no fucking clue who Ducent is. Some of these bands I've never heard of.
Yeah, same. I mean, I listened to the soundtrack as well, and some of them stick out a little more than others, and some of them, yeah, like I don't remember that song.
I will say a lot of the songs on here did kind of sound the same for some of the bands that I didn't know. Like they had that, I don't even know what you would call it, just sort of like that early 2000s, like popular metal kind of sound. I guess like Arch Enemy is like the sound, I would say. Like a lot of, there were more than a few where I felt like that was kind of like the sound. So like which ones did you like the most off of it?
Got your Napalm Death, of course, Meshuggah, In Flames. I fucking love In Flames.
What was the Napalm Death song?
I got it right here. Troops of Doom. Oh, Lacuna Coil. I love Lacuna Coil.
You know, I've never actually listened to them, and I kind of liked. I mean, it's not really my thing, but if I were to compare that to like Nightwish, I actually thought Lacuna Coil was not that bad.
It's not always my kind of thing. They do it really well. I respect that. When I worked at Lucky 13, I got a lot of exposure to all these bands. Some of them just stick with you, some don't. Like Strapping Young Lads, that's another one. I just love those guys.
Yeah, that was one I liked a lot. Dillinger Escape Plan, Meshuggah, Fireball Ministry. I enjoyed that one. Obviously, Mastodon, Suffocation song I like, Bloodbath, Samael.
I've never been a big Cradle of Filth fan, but did you ever see his movie? Danny Filth's movie, I think that's his name.
No, I've never really been into Cradle of Filth either.
If you want, it's almost as entertaining as the Veronica movie with the Danzig made. It's a little more up its own ass, so it's not quite as funny. It's worth a watch. It's worth a watch. It's not any good, but it's worth a watch. I think it's a trilogy. Like they did like three different segments in it. It's you can tell it's Danny Filth going, oh, this can be so disturbing, and you're watching. It's like
you're like, this is so fucking stupid.
Oh, okay, Danny.
I found out that Nightwish made a movie off of one of their albums too, and I was like, you know what? I'll watch it just to see how fucking weird it is.
Oh wow. Okay.
I just think it's insulting that you would put together this fucking insanely stacked roster of artists for a soundtrack, and then to just supplant it with Christian Slater narrating.
Yeah.
Like, why?
And again, there was opportunities throughout the movie. You could just throw in 15, 20 seconds of one of the songs. You already paid for it. There's no reason not to. And it's just the stupidest shit. I can't believe it.
It's okay. Mastodon wound up getting Blood and Thunder featured in The Big Short.
Oh, sure. I mean, no, they're fine, but it's just dumb. Missed opportunity, I think we'll say, is that.
And unfortunately, after that, there's nothing else to do but talk about the movie. So we'll go through this. Oh, God. All right. You know, I honestly don't even think this is like the worst movie I've seen.
Oh, no.
It's just, but it is just bad. Like there's nothing really in it that's like really offensive. It's just like so vapid and stupid.
What it is, it's a waste of time.
Yes.
I didn't get anything out of it.
And money. Like if I had paid to see this, I would have been like, I can't believe I paid any actual money.
Oh, while you got up there, look at the box office returns. I think at one point this was the lowest grossing movie in the history of movies. Up
Let's see.
until a couple, there's some more recent ones, but it did dog shit.
Grossed 2.8 million in its opening weekend, and by the end of its run had grossed 12.7 million worldwide against a $20 million budget. I do believe that the lowest grossing movie is a movie called Zizek's Road, and I think it made under $50. It had Tom Sizemore in it, and I've kind of just been obsessed with seeing this movie because I just want to see how unremarkable it is.
And then he died of embarrassment.
That was this year? He passed on? I can never remember.
Yeah, we're almost halfway through this year. I think it was this year. May the ghost of Tom Sizemore come and correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, it was March 3rd of this year.
Hey, all right, we're right. Take that, ghost of Tom Sizemore.
Oh boy, he's going to come back to haunt this podcast.
Yeah.
Well, this movie opens with an opening crawl, and this lengthy opening text crawl was added because the test audiences said they did not understand what the fuck was going on in the movie, which kind of makes sense. And Uwe Boll narrated the opening text crawl himself, which bodiless Boll tells us that an ancient Native American civilization called the Abkhani, or as Boll says, the Abkhani. He sounds like Tommy Wiseau.
Yeah. I have a Tommy Wiseau theory, by the way, if you'd like to hear it. I don't want to interrupt too much, but I was actually thinking, what would I do if I won a big lottery and I didn't want anybody to know it was me? So I'd have my name changed, I'd move somewhere, and maybe make a movie. And I think that's what happened. He probably won a bunch of money somewhere, attempted plastic surgery, changed his name, and moved to America and went, I'm going to make a movie. That's by Tommy Wiseau. And so that's why he's always so squirrely when everyone asks where he's from. It's like, we know you're not from America.
I mean, that could be. I know that it, like, his background, unless it's like come out more, I know that like he's been very like cagey and mysterious about it. And just like, I read the book about the making of that movie that the actor made, Greg Sestero. He co-wrote the book with another guy. It's a great book. It's a master artist. The movie's pretty good too.
Movie's good.
Yeah, he never really is able to pin down where Tommy is from. So like, yeah, I could see how he had like maybe a botched surgery and now he looks more like a human potato. And he's just like, come on, be in my movie.
Yeah, the part where, anyway, let's get back to the task at hand. So
yeah,
that's my Tommy Wiseau theory, and I'm sticking with it.
So there's this Native American civilization that was called the Abkhani, and they were able to open portals or gates to different worlds, dimensions, and they disappeared and left behind a bunch of artifacts that could open these gates again. The government created Bureau 713, which is their paranormal agency. And I love that this is just a thing in this movie.
I also love the fact this is something they could have shown.
They could have all done this in like, even if they wanted to do like a condensed exposition.
Like a montage.
They could have just done some like
Evil Dead 2 at the very beginning.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. Off you go.
Even like Pacific Rim, that little condensed opening, just showing like how the monsters popped up. Like, you know, it's something. Bureau 713 has been collecting the Abkhani artifacts under the direction of Lionel Hudgens. Ooh, real scary name. The government shut Bureau 713.
Sounds like he's going to sue you.
But Hudgens built a lab in a gold mine where he performed experiments to merge orphan children with some of these interdimensional creatures from the Abkhani gate portals that he brought in from the darkness zone or whatever it's called. I don't know. You know, I kept writing in my notes, if this sounds stupid, it's because it is.
Yeah. And so, you summed it up better than he did.
I couldn't believe how long the opening like crawl was. Like the Star Wars crawls are shorter than that.
Yeah. You can imagine if like Obi-Wan Kenobi actually read the fucking crawl at you, or some guy with like a really thick German accent. Like,
it is a time.
A long time ago. In the galaxy. That's by German accent.
A snooty old British man. Like, oh, in a galaxy far, far away. We see a kid running through the woods at night being pursued by cops. And he has apparently run away from a church orphanage, and he hides under an electrical tower, and he sees some bad CGI monsters before Edward Carnby wakes up on a plane, this is Christian Slater, having a bad dream and berates a little kid for being concerned.
A real plucky know-it-all kid too. Like the kind of kid that shows up in these movies, you just want to slap him. The worst airplane ride ever, be sitting next to one of these kids, just asking pre-scripted by adult questions.
I mean, actually, it would be the worst to be stuck between the two of them. Like,
oh my God.
Edward Carnby doing his bad Jack Nicholson voice on one side, and I got this fucking little asshole of a kid on the other side of me.
Horrible. Then the next scene's my favorite scene in the movie.
Which part? When the plane goes over and Lionel Hudgens, the crazy doctor, is like, kill him. He calls in that.
Oh, right.
Or when he starts narrating.
It's where he gets into the cab and he tells the cab driver that he's an archaeologist or some shit, whatever the fuck he is, like a paranormal archaeologist, investigator. And the guy's like, wow, that's cool. And then he goes, and this guy's trying to kill me. He goes, well, let's get away from him. Like, you just met this guy. Fuck you. Get out of my car.
Yeah, he's literally just like, hey, you want to get out of here? And he's like, yeah, man. There's just like this chase scene that just happens out of nowhere.
Just because he's a paranormal dude.
Yeah, and they wind up like crashing, and the driver of the chasing car escapes over a fence, which somehow Carnby doesn't notice, all the while like his immense trench coat is just sailing about in the wind. And this is all less than 10 minutes into the movie, like just this ridiculous opening. And
8 minutes of talking.
Yeah.
And then this is 2 minutes.
And then there's this hilarious slow motion 360 shot, and then bam, fight scene.
Yeah. And then people are shooting guns and cops never show up. And like one lady goes, oh my God.
The assassin that was trying to kill Carnby steals the artifact that he had. And so Carnby like disarms a cop and steals his gun, and he's shooting the assassin. And there's like this inside the gun shot that's done in CGI and then follows the bullet into the guy.
He shoots 2 bullets. One shoots through the ice. The other one follows, so it could actually have a direct line. Pretty clever.
The guy doesn't die, and so Christian Slater just like starts bitch smacking him a lot, basically, and then throws him onto a harpoon.
And then we go directly to the next scene where he's just walking around.
Well, first we actually meet Tara Reid's character, Eileen Cedric, and like I said, she's a scientist, and she's inspecting a delivery of artifacts, and they're super advanced, and blah blah blah. None of this shit matters. And we find out that her boyfriend has been missing for some time, and that's Carnby. This is all told through extremely forced dialogue. And then meanwhile, on a boat, Professor Hudgens and a guy with a really deep voice finds some more artifacts in the ocean.
I was starting to get annoyed at this point because there's all these parts during the fight scenes, and I knew that there's 37 songs on the soundtrack. I'm starting to wait. Okay, when's one going to start? And they're not starting yet. And it's like, okay, we're saving it for the scary part? Or this is when I started realizing we may not hear any songs.
And there's no good metal song during any of those fight scenes.
No.
None.
It is stock drum sound.
I do like when they pull up the big box from the bottom of the ocean and the guy with the deep voice just says, is this pure gold?
I had that written down too.
Best actor in the movie.
Yeah, he was pretty great.
Carnby stalks down an alley, and there's some motion sickness inducing first person camera work. And Slater looks absolutely just lost in the scene, which is funny because he's home in this like weird new age warehouse loft space. And he runs some tests on another artifact. The movie is just jumping between like this scene and Hudgens on the boat with the artifacts. And it's just really bad editing, and kind of like the movie is very like ADD. It just can't sit still for like.
Yeah, wasn't there like some kind of portly comic relief guy that was with Tara Reid?
Yeah, they're like guys that work for the museum. They're bringing stuff in, or security guards, and they just deliver some like goofy exposition.
Right, and the one guy's like,
dialogue.
Don't open the box, and she's like, well, I'm gonna open that box.
If someone tells you to don't open something, you're gonna open it.
Oh, of course.
Which is exactly what Deep Voice Guy does, except the box is a portal to the darkness world, and this also gives Carnby a hell of a headache and winds up waking up a bunch of sleeper people.
Thanks, Tara Reid.
And if you don't know what that is, these were the other orphans that Hudgens had kidnapped and hybridized with the darkness creature things. And again, if that sounds really stupid, well, that's because it is.
It was.
All these sleeper hybrids start vacating their homes and head to Carnby's location, I think, or wherever the gate is. I'm not quite sure.
Yeah, I'm getting bored again just talking about it.
So Hudgens was on the boat. He hid in a cabin to, avoid being murdered by all of the darkness monsters. Everyone else is dead. And he finds this little artifact in the coffin. He just pulls it out. And then Stephen Dorff enters the picture, as well as Stephen Dorff's hair. Oh,
fabulous.
He has some incredible hair in this movie. I can't even really describe it. It's like a junior mullet.
It's like the mullet your mom let you have in 7th grade.
Yeah, exactly. Except he's 40 now.
Yeah.
Again, I can't believe this movie found room for 2 dudes with grim, weaselly voices, but it did. And Dorff plays Richard Burke, Commander Richard Burke, who leads Bureau 713 after Carnby had left.
And guess who he doesn't get along with?
Would it shock you that it's Carnby?
What? They should be fast friends.
I also like that the subtext for Bureau 713 labels it as the Agency for Paranormal Investigations, or the API. They look like they have a pretty sizable budget, considering that they're basically Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
Carnby wakes up from another nightmare about his past because his little Barbie phone starts ringing, and it's a friend calling to say that her husband has just disappeared. We get some more narration from Carnby saying people who were crossed, hybridized, some lost their humanity and some didn't, and kind of rejoined society or became sleepers. And he's going to find this missing person. It just occurred to me now watching the movie that it takes place in San Francisco. Had no idea.
Well, that explains all the crime.
Carnby calls in a favor to find the missing person, John Dillon. Hey, look at that. Same name. I have nothing to do with this movie, I swear. He visits the orphanage, and the nun who was there 22 years ago looks exactly the same. And he tells her something weird is happening, and he wants to find the others because it's happening again, whatever it is. I also love the missing persons thing. Database is 1-800. Call in. You can call in a number, and it's 1-800-555-LOST.
We should try calling that.
The FMPP Missing Persons Database. Are you seeing if it's a real number?
I'm going to try.
Let's see what happens.
This call may be recorded for quality assurance.
Oh my God.
We have a special promotion today for select callers.
Rapid pickup?
Thank you for calling the Medical Alert Center. This is Jessica on a recorded line. Can you hear me okay?
I'm fine, thanks. Where's Medical Alert?
They have a promotion.
You tricked me into calling Medical Alert. Now there's going to be ambulances coming to my house.
Oh my God, incredible. Hopefully they don't star 69 you.
Yeah, I'm going to turn my phone off for a little while now. Avoidance is key.
Carnby winds up speaking with an old friend named Fish, who openly asks, why am I doing this? He also worked at the agency, or does something currently at the agency.
He's now our 110th character we've been introduced to in this movie.
Yeah, we just meet people.
Yeah.
He has tracked down some of the fellow orphanage members in as much as they also disappeared. Carnby then goes to see Tara Reid. And, this is when we find out, oh, he's the one who's been missing for a while. She hugs him, she slaps him, and then he shows her what he found in the Amazon for 6 weeks while tracking poachers, and then fell in with the Chilean military who were selling artifacts on the black market. That's literally what he said.
Mm-hmm. And she's like, I hate you. Yeah.
She says, this is Abkhani. This artifact is Abkhani, but she's puzzled as to why all the pieces have been buried far apart. Pretty difficult to describe how little direction is happening in these scenes. I feel like these are all first takes.
Oh, there's no doubt about that. That's not even in question.
The lights go out at the museum and something starts growling in the dark as the derpy security guard we talked about before goes to look. This guy practically takes an entire tour of the museum before Dr. Tara Reid says the hair on the back of her neck is standing up. And finally, a horrible CGI tentacle claw kills the security guard. It belongs to a weird reptilian monster thing that also vaguely looks like the alien that is mostly portrayed by growls and occasionally horrendous CGI. It chases Carnby and Dr.
I wrote down that the CGI for this 2005 video game adaptation looks like it was at least made in 2010 video game cutscenes.
It chases Carnby and Dr. Tara Reid through the museum to a storage closet where they hide before Carnby shoots at it, and it runs away. Bureau 713 commandos crashing through the skylight of the museum right on cue because, man, this is just getting stupider by the second.
Mm-hmm.
This is 35 minutes into the movie, and I don't think any of the soundtrack has shown up. You said it was, what, 53 minutes?
57 minutes.
57 minutes. The commandos open fire on the now half-invisible...
53 minutes, I'm sorry.
The commandos open fire on the now half-invisible reptilian monster, and it runs off as they take over the site. It just feels like a bad version of Aliens.
I had written down in my notes that Alone in the Dark is accurate because when I'm alone in the dark, I get very sleepy.
Stephen Dorff and Christian Slater, or Burke and Carnby, catch up again. As you said, they don't really like each other. And Burke demands answers, and Carnby wants back in, but he's told to fuck off. They have a little man fight before he makes off with Burke's ID badge. Real good commander there.
Yeah. And, you know, it seems like they have a history, so it's not like he wouldn't know that he might try something like this. But, oh, that crafty, what's his name?
Carnby.
Crafty
Carnby.
Sounds like an Irish supper.
Or an Irish cocktail.
Yeah.
Dr. Tara Reid goes back to her office to get her stuff as Burke has her trailed by a fellow commando. Carnby goes to visit Fish again, who's performing an autopsy on a body that has Carnby's fingerprints on it. There's another flashback to the artifacts. Thank you, movie, because Carnby killed this guy. It's the bald assassin from before. There's really no suggestion about that it is that guy. He's just like has to say, oh, this is the assassin from before, because he's covered up in a blanket and he's cutting his spine open.
Was he smoking a cigarette while doing that too?
I don't remember, but that would be fucking awesome if he was. It turns out that this assassin is ex-Bureau 713, and he has something fused to his spinal cord, some kind of like ridge dildo with spines, or as this movie puts it, a symbiote. If you've seen Stargate SG-1, it's the same thing as the Gaul, basically wormy thing takes over the host.
Yes.
It turns out that Carnby has one too, which Fish says he can't remove because it could paralyze him, and Carnby just thinks it is dead, which is an incredibly stupid thing to think. Is it Hudgens? I wrote Hedges. Lionel Bush. Hudgens visits Dr. Tara Reid while she was getting her stuff and gets real alarmed when he sees she's researching some important data before he gets taken away by commandos. Their body armor is really funny looking, and the reason for that is every piece of body armor worn by the various extra foot soldiers during the major battle scenes and otherwise is paintball body armor protection made by USA. It's so low budget.
They probably just went to like a paintball tournament and just walked out with the uniforms.
They probably went to a paintball tournament and walked out with the people that were in the paintball tournament.
Oh, there's that too. Yeah.
In this movie.
Want to be in our stupid goddamn movie?
One of the monsters has been captured by Hudgens, which he takes a blood sample from and then injects into himself.
As one does.
Fish says the creatures are called Xenoms. Not sure if that is spelled with an X or a Z. Xenoms. And they have only been a nuisance in rural areas before moving into San Francisco. They're weak to osmium, platinum, and gold, which can disrupt their electrical connection to... I just wrote, good Lord, this is some fucking bullshit.
Yeah, they sound like hill people.
We're just being invaded by hillbillies.
Yeah.
Carnby
got the gold.
Carnby gets a tracker for them and also a lamp that, when set to certain light frequencies, I'm not sure if that's proper science, but sure.
We'll let him have it.
Carnby is also given bullets coated in photon accelerated luminescent resin. Words.
Try to prove that that's not a real thing.
So Carnby uses his little Game Boy Advance tracker while expositing about how close to the truth he is, whatever truth that is.
He says the word "the truth" a lot.
The truth, the truth, the truth. I'll see if it exists, but there should be a compilation of Christian Slater just saying the truth.
Yeah.
It probably is about like a minute.
Like Sylvester Stallone saying the law. And
yeah. You betrayed the law. Law. Another fucking incredible bit of filmmaking.
It's just lovely.
Carnby strips down and sleeps in his jeans for a while. Dr. Tara Reid shows up in her yellow convertible Volkswagen Beetle to look at artifacts and stare at Carnby's exposed back. Commander Burke calls Fish into the control room to remind him how big his forehead is and that he can grab a pizza with Carnby unless he wants to get fired. So he tasks him with dumping over all the data he has on him. At his house that evening, Fish is reading Carnby's file in the dark for some reason while his wife goes to get the door, only to find out that she is actually dead, killed by Professor Hudgens, who also chokes out Fish and then drops a parasitic symbiote into his mouth, thus turning him into a hybrid.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
That almost sounds like something.
There was an idea there. It's very quickly abandoned, very quickly ran out of gas.
Yeah.
Dr. Tara Reid says the Abkhani use constellations to pinpoint locations and that the artifacts' locations denote important sites or places to go. Then the Xenomes show up to interrupt the exposition, and Carnsby grimly stalks through a room seemingly made out of plywood boxes before he sees John Dillon, who attacks him.
I made note of those of that set as well. I wrote styrofoam.
It looks so bad. It's just like, hey, we need to borrow any random crate you have laying around shipping warehouse in fucking Bayonne, New Jersey, whatever you can loan us.
This is coming up on another one of my favorite lines in the movie.
Carnby shoots John Dillon as more of the sleeper hybrids come running in and jumping through windows, as well as another Xenome. And I just feel like I'm playing Turok Dinosaur Hunter again, because that's like the quality of these graphics. Like, I think Reptile looked better in Mortal Kombat, honestly.
It was around this time, too. There was at least one good death scene. Like one decent practical death scene. I went, hey, they tried.
I think someone's arm gets ripped off, or there's some blood.
I guess something like that.
It's pretty straightforward, but it's like, hey, we finally got some like latex, like flesh getting ripped up and some blood. Carnby remarks that he feels bad for killing John Dillon before we finally get some fucking metal as Carnby and Bureau 713 commandos open fire on a pack of Xenomes in a hilarious, confusing, and hyper shootout set to Ghost by the band Nemec. Lots of CGI bullets and flashing lights. This is not a good scene for people with epilepsy.
Right before, during that scene, I wrote down whoever was the light flicker on set.
That's what it is. It's just the light. It's awful. It's like nauseating to watch.
There was a spinal cord kill right at that point. Spinal cord pops out of the guy's back, and it was pretty cool.
It was probably one of like the few cool things in the movie.
Or maybe it was just cool because it was finally something.
Yeah, it was something interesting happened. So the commandos clear the area as Burke shows up in all of his epic Steven Dorffness and his amazingly terrible hair, who tells Carnby to drop his weapon because he's infected. A stray shot interrupts them as more hybrids attack, and then something truly amazing happens. As Burke is taking down a hybrid that appeared through the magic of editing, Carnby yells his name as he fires his rifle at him, actually killing a hybrid that was sneaking up behind him. We can clearly see the animated bullet going, I don't know, anywhere between 5 to 8 feet above the target's head, but she drops like a sack of hammers anyway.
It's delightful.
Amazing. Absolutely like the pinnacle of cinema. But Carnby saved Burke, so plot development.
So, hey, they're pals.
I had to go back and watch that scene a couple of times. It was pretty amazing. Like, to just see how absolutely just brain dead everybody was making this movie. Or at least brain dead is Uwe Boll.
By this time, they can't get their refunds. We're over an hour in.
More kung fu fighting before more stalking down dark corridors with the commandos as we segue into an even worse Aliens homage, excuse me, to the hybrids taking out more of the commandos. Sadly, not more weird lizard monsters, but super strong zombie people. I guess this did come out after Resident Evil, and that was a huge hit, and also based on a video game, so it still doesn't really give it a pass, though. Carnby demands to speak with the manager. I mean, know what the hell is going on before Burke shows up and says Fish is missing with Professor Hudgens. They want to find out what Hudgens has to do with this. We already know this. The beginning of the movie told us this. Just watch the movie, guys.
Or don't.
They mobilize out to find out what Hudgens has to do with this, decked out in their Nerf body armor and Hummers, as they make their way to the old gold mine where the experiments were being done. I do like their headquarter radio lady. She's cool. And Stephen Dorff demands more men at the gold mine to raid the underground lab. Nobody tells Dorff no. This is a Stephen Dorff stan account.
Is this around the time when they run into a brick wall and someone actually says, someone's been here?
I believe so. There's some smooth saxophone playing as Carnby enters the mine. So we're either getting horny or having a flashback. And he said, this is where we need to go. I believe he's like talking about a brick wall or a brick wall in question or something like that.
Right, when I see a brick wall, I think to myself, clearly someone's been here before.
Also, maybe stop. Although that being said, I was very lost here. Like, I still was just like, why are we going?
I still have no idea.
Like, who's going in? Like, or who was in here? What exactly was going on in here? I mean, okay, maybe I do know what's going on. It was the gold mine, but like, who's still in here?
Because you read the plot synopsis.
It was told to us at the beginning of the movie, and I've forgotten what it is. The cast also looks lost. What I feel like the production of this movie was that they just were like, we're just going to film you doing these things and then cobble it together at the end and fill in the rest with like bad computer graphics. That's what I think happened. So,
and then we're going to flicker some lights and
barely play any heavy metal music.
Yeah. For example, you just said saxophone music. There was saxophone music.
Not Meshuggah, not Hypocrisy, not Bloodbath, saxophone. This mine is all wet and drippy. And I actually don't think Tara Reid has said anything for like 20 minutes now, too, which could be a good or a bad thing. Burke finds a dead end to check out as they get the power back on at the mine. In the cave at the dead end, they find some engravings as the floor falls in, killing a commando who lands on a bunch of spikes. Professor Hudgens unleashes his army of CGI lizard cats to attack the Bureau of 713 commandos who are guarding the entrance. And they have 4 hours until dawn. Fish then appears behind the commando who turned the power back on and pulls the pin on his grenade, and they explode, so all the lights are off and the not alien monsters can attack without worry. Inside the mine, Carnby, Dr. Tara Reid, and Burke Dorff climb down a ladder and have to evade another falling ceiling and barely escape it. One of the commandos with them, the badass Asian lady, breaks her leg. Aw, I liked her. She was like one of the only cool people. She tried very hard to be good in this bad movie. And the Xenomes start to slaughter the commandos on the surface. The walls are also engraved with skulls, which is kind of cool, actually. More engravings of symbols are found and warn them once you get down here alive, you're already dead. Very deep.
Oh,
I like to think one of the lizard monsters wrote that and was like,
little goth lizard monster. Got black lipstick and black eyeliner. We're already dead.
CGI helicopters can't stop the monsters as they kill off more of the commandos, and they also crash choppers. A serpent slithers through the sand of the gold mine and stings a commando before Carnby tosses it away, and they start blindly firing into the sand. And I love that they're just shooting at the dirt. It's so stupid. They're just like, and I'm picturing just Uwe Boll being like, shoot over here, now shoot over here.
I will punch you.
I will box you if you do not shoot at the invisible snake. The badass commando lady dies, RIP, and they have to move on. We also finally get some decent gore as the remaining commandos get picked off, and one dude has his arm ripped off.
That was great. Yeah.
One commando stays behind to buy time while the other descends into the mine. Carnby finds that brick wall and they rig a bunch of explosives to it in order to breach. We are treated to some more grim stalking with the no-name commando as he walks through a warehouse, I guess, and finds another commando with a head split. And finds another commando with a split head and then gets killed by bad CGI.
Yes, he does. And I have written down for the head split was seen it. Like, I was impressed with the arm. That was pretty good. But then
they didn't need to do the head.
Yeah.
Carnby and company find the lab inside where the hybrids were created with the orphans. They even find Carnby's bed, unless the bed was also named Carnby, in which case that's a weird coincidence. Burke gets mad and flips a table, and then they find another chamber. They can use one of the artifacts as a key, but Burke and Dr. Tara Reid warn Carnby that some doors should remain closed, and he decides not to open it. Then the other commando with
he's banned from ever flipping over a table ever again.
It was so, I loved it. It was just like I imagine that it was just ADR, and what he actually said was, "What am I doing in this?" Then the other commando with them gets shot in the head as Professor Hudgens appears with a rifle. He asks if Carnby remembers this, saying that he was his biggest failure after he escaped, and Bureau 713 shut him down. Not shot him down. If they shot him, then we would be without this movie, and we'd all be in a better place.
Words hurt, you know. And by the way, you know why all of this works? It's because we care about the characters, Dylan.
I mean, I think
if we didn't care about the characters, this would be complete nonsense. But
Dr. Tara Reid hands over the artifact, and he inserts another piece and then uses it to open the door. Carnby says, "Don't be insane and open that door." I just want to say that to people who are like walking into just some like, you know, they're like walking into some store. I want to be like, "Don't be insane and open that door."
Yeah.
See how they react. They shoot him, and he conveniently still opens the door. And inside is this giant misty chamber full of weird stone columns and lots of xenoms who start popping out of holes in the wall. Carnby seals the chamber to slow their escape as they make their way back to the surface. And Stephen Dorff remarks that the detonator isn't working for explosives that were planted. And I guess I missed that part, but he leaves anyway to go make sure the bomb explodes.
I made note of that too. And when at least the movie's almost fucking over. I really don't.
Whenever a bomb is introduced, you know that the movie is probably going to end soon.
Yes.
Carnby and Dr. Tara Reid rush to escape. Burke fires a bunch of bullets at nothing. I mean, like literally nothing. None of the monsters are remotely close. He's just shooting at a green screen, and he retrieves the bomb. He detonates it as Carnby shoots out the lock of a door on some random person's property, and he and Tara Reid escape. Stephen Dorff dies. R.I.P. Stephen Dorff. Or so we think. Dorff lives.
Of
and
course.
Inexplicably, Carnby and Dr. Reid show up right outside of Sister Clara's house, the nun from before.
Yeah.
She's dead, of course, and Carnby is sad, and we get some real acting here. Also, the camera is wildly tilted. I think it is for a lot of this movie.
The old Dutch angle, yes. It's
it's just slightly off. Like
so many Dutch angles, everyone was wearing clogs.
Back in San Francisco, or wherever the fuck we are now, we find out that the city's been evacuated as Carnby and Dr. Tara Reid walk through the vacant streets. I'm not really sure why or when it was evacuated. It seemed like most of the action wasn't super widespread, but okay. Carnby tells us...
I've never been part of a whole place being evacuated, but I would imagine it takes some time.
It was like in the blink of an eye, just empty, you know? I don't remember. I want to say that 28 Days Later came out before this because the ending just reminded me of the beginning of 28 Days Later. Oh yeah, 28 Days Later came out in 2002. So the ending of this movie is just the beginning of that, except not in London. It's in San Francisco. And I'm sure Boll was like, well, it's going to be empty and it's going to be so cool. And it's clearly just ripped off from 28 Days Later.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. You're assuming that he's ever watched a movie. I really don't know if he has.
Well, he said that the movie that inspired him was a boxcar or a streetcar named Desire. So he watched that movie and then said, "Oh, I'm going to make Alone in the Dark. It's going to be just like a streetcar named Desire."
You know what this makes me never want to do is make a movie just in case it accidentally inspires someone to make this.
This is a great example of like, if you want to make a movie, watch this, and it'll tell you every way not to make a movie. So Carnby tells us via narration that actually maybe everybody was wiped out by the interdimensional monsters like the Abkhani was. And the movie ends with a first-person shot of a snarly monster rushing at Carnby like an Evil Dead.
And we don't even get to see them die.
Nope. We can only hope. And that's how this incredibly stupid and convoluted movie ends.
And then the second metal song finally shows up.
Yeah, I don't recall what it is.
I don't either. I was fairly well checked out by that time.
I think Nightwish, Wish I Had an Angel, or whatever that goofy song is, plays in the credits, which my friends and I had a lot of fun bagging on that song in high school, and still pretty corny. Yeah. Also, Uwe Boll directed the music video for that, and it includes clips of this movie in it.
Oh, so it's the worst music video ever.
Yes. He directed one of the worst movies ever, and he probably directed one of the worst music videos ever.
Right up there with that Billy Squier one where he's wearing his pajamas and flailing around with pillows.
Also directed by Uwe Boll.
Oh, obviously.
Yeah, like I said, the storytelling is about on par with that of a conspiracy theory, and this movie boasts some truly inept filmmaking.
Oh,
I think inept is like the best way to describe this movie.
And it's the problem with it, of course, is that it's not fun inept.
No,
it's a slog. This was really, like I said earlier, it's just a waste of time. Don't watch it.
No, I would not encourage anybody to watch this. The action's lame, the lore is fucking stupid and thrown together, and they just squander a completely awesome heavy metal soundtrack.
You watch the Cradle of Filth movie instead. If you want to see anything, I don't know. I don't even really like that one, but it's better. Danny Filth made a better movie.
Danny Filth made 3 movies that were better than this,
but all in one movie.
Oh, okay, understood.
I should probably clarify. Yeah, so it's a what do you call it? The segments. I got no brain right now.
Yeah, after this, I don't blame you. Yeah, so don't fucking watch this. This movie is pretty bad. I don't know if I don't think it's the worst movie I've ever seen. It's pretty bad. I'm not gonna say that, but it didn't really piss me off, other than I kind of wish I had my 90 minutes back, but whatever.
I watched a movie 4 or 5 years ago. And if I ever see a movie worse than it, I might just kill myself. It's called Loquisha. It's not even close. It's the worst fucking. It's about a guy who becomes a radio DJ pretending to be a sassy black woman.
Oh boy.
And people love her advice. And then when he gets found out, so then he has to hire an actual sassy black woman to make public appearances. And if you can make it through that movie, I'll give you a hug because you'll.
Was it just like anti-comedy?
No, the guy, he was just one of those stupid fucking guys. Everybody's like apologizing to him for offending him. The whole movie. Like at one point, the lady says, "You're a better black woman than I could ever be."
Oh God! So it's Jesus.
It's like that.
Ooh,
every scene.
Rough.
I hope they paid her well to say that to him. I really do. Oh,
now is he black or is he?
Oh no, he's just a fresh-faced white guy, the kind of face you'd like to slap, the kind of face that shows up at the Capitol to riot.
Woof. That sounds bad.
It was bad.
Maybe, I guess if I had to choose between that, it sounds like I would rather watch Alone in the Dark.
Oh, I'd watch it 6 times in a row.
It is also, like I said, weird as fuck how mundane the movie is. It takes no chances. It doesn't do anything interesting. It just is incompetent, and it's remarkable how much it fucks up for a movie that is so straightforward and yet so complicated.
Yeah. And so much of it is just told, just narrated. Like I said earlier in the movie, he's talking about his childhood, then just goes, basically goes, but that's a whole nother story or something like, we'll never see it. We're going to, the opening crawl. Perfect example. Right there, we know we're in trouble because they explain a lot of things they could have shown. And they do not. So it's basically like going to a campfire story and hearing a German guy with a bad accent try to tell you a scary story, but he's also very stupid.
And then he wants to box you when you don't.
And then he wants to box you when you say that was stupid.
Besides Alone in the Dark and LaQuisha, have you been watching any good movies or anything else worth mentioning? I
had a run a couple of months ago. I was actually looking it up. I was going to try to. I had a really good run. One was called Sledgehammer. Low budget movie where a guy kills people with a sledgehammer. Pretty good. I rewatched Evil Ed, which was awesome. Dangerous Men was absolutely amazing.
Oh, is that like really like weird, almost like nonsensical?
Yeah, it was made over the course of like 20 years or something.
Yeah.
Oh my, so worth it.
I heard about that movie. It sounds bizarre and really out there.
Yeah, War of the Wizards.
That sounds great.
Yeah, Freeway Maniac was my favorite one that I've seen recently of like a good bad movie. I had a really good run there for a minute. Yeah, Sledgehammer was absolutely phenomenal.
I closed out the Gamera trilogy from the 90s into the 2000s.
Oh, nice. That's a fun one.
Yeah, the third one is great. Gamera 3, Revenge of Iris. It's one of the best kaiju movies. I watched Conan the Destroyer for the first time. Arnold punches a horse and a camel in that movie.
He sure does.
And Grace Jones was fucking awesome in that with her little...
Yeah, that one...
it's not great, but I'd be lying if I didn't kind of have a good time watching it.
Yeah, no, they got away with a lot for PG-13 too. I would have benefited by being full R, but they managed to, like, when they're pulling the horn off that dude's head. That's pretty grim.
You mean Andre the Giant?
That was Andre the Giant?
Yeah, Andre the Giant is the suit actor for
that's cool.
Dagoth at the end of the movie.
I did not know that.
We rewatched The Color Out of Space, which I think is kind of a hot and cold movie, but like when it's good, it's really good.
Richard Stanley directed that one, right?
Yeah, unfortunately, he sucks.
Yeah. The story about Richard Stanley trying to direct the movie of Marlon Brando and Val Kilmer.
Oh, the
Island of Dr. Moreau.
Yeah,
there's a documentary about that, which is absolutely fascinating.
Yeah, I do want to see that. I've read about it.
And yeah, he dressed up like an extra so he could see how they're ruining his movie.
I watched this movie on Shudder. I think Vinegar Syndrome might have just put out a release of it called Primal Rage, not to be confused with the dinosaur fighting game, but it is basically a precursor to 28 Days Later, but set at a Florida college campus in the 80s. So, figured that the rage virus would originate in Florida. And it's basically about a monkey that's getting like hormone experiments done on it or something with its brain, and it bites a bunch of people and turns them into like savage, aggressive, aggro, bloodthirsty hyper zombies. It was actually like pretty good. I liked it.
Vinegar Syndrome knows what they're doing.
Yeah, they do. They're doing their, as of this recording, they're doing their halfway to Black Friday sale. So I picked up a few things from that.
Nice. You watched New York Ninja, right?
I have not watched New York Ninja. Might add that.
Yeah. So I have a suggestion. If you ever want me back, there's a movie. It's a heavy metal movie. I think it's the soundtrack is only like one or like 2 or 3 songs, but they're legit metal songs. Mm-hmm. It's called Day of the Beast. It's a Spanish movie.
I've heard of this movie. It's on my list to check out.
It's really good. It's also got my favorite movie Hesher. The guy who runs this record store, he's just like the perfect Hesher. And he's wonderful. The whole movie is just great.
All right. Well,
I would recommend that one. It's not bad. It's the unfortunate thing. But after this, I think we owe it to ourselves.
The guy who did the effects in Primal Rage, Carlo Rambaldi, also created Dagoth from the end of Conan the Destroyer.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, I liked Primal Rage. I thought it was fun. I thought it was actually like pretty good. I wasn't expecting much, but I wound up really liking it. I watched Life Force, the space vampire movie by Tobe Hooper.
Starring that naked lady.
That movie is nude-tastic.
Yeah.
The main character was pretty
good. It was first on-screen kiss, too, and it's with a man.
It's with Patrick Stewart. I do wish we got some more space bat monsters, but
Yeah.
like overall I did enjoy it. I thought it was like a pretty good like throwback to like 1950s horror monster movies, but you know, for the 80s or whenever it came out.
Yeah, that was a staple on Cinemax when I was a little kid.
Also watched Hellraiser 5 Inferno. And
I'm sorry.
That is a very weird movie. That is a really, really fucking weird movie, but I laughed a lot during it, so it had that going for it.
I saw one that I hated almost as much as Lakeisha recently. I can't find record of it. I'll let you know about it another time, but I won't watch it again. But then I realized that it made me laugh out loud once. I went, already, it's better than Lakeisha could ever be.
We also watched the Frontline documentary about Clarence Thomas and Ginny Thomas, and we live in a bad country.
We really do. They're terrible.
Also started rewatching Neon Genesis Evangelion with my partner Sarah, and man, it's so fucking good. It's one of my favorite shows of all time. It's super, super good. Highly recommend.
I remember when they were when Brett Kavanaugh was up for the Supreme Court, and everyone was just saying like that it's unfair that everyone's treating him like this. It's like, this is a lifetime appointment job. It's not like getting a job as a cashier. You know, you're supposed to be run through the coals. We have to make sure you're not a piece of shit.
The same thing happened. Like Clarence Thomas got put on the court, and they were just like, okay, fine.
Off you go. Hey, it's still fucking everything up.
Music-wise, there's been a lot of good music coming out that I've been enjoying. Really like this band called Chained to the Bottom of the Ocean, which they named themselves after a Thou song. Their new album fucking rocks. The riffs rule. And for an hour and 6 minutes, I think it's really worth your time. They kick ass live too. I saw them opening up for Indian earlier in the year.
Nice.
Krallice has a new album out. It's super synthy. I think Colin Marston should do a sci-fi soundtrack. That would be very cool.
That's a really good idea, actually.
I found out about this Greek post-sludge band called Allocuria, and I've never heard of them, but I really dig it. It's got some like wide-scale dynamics that I think give it a really extra push. First time I've ever listened to the black metal band Phocandra. They have a new album out. It's called Hail the Abyss, and this is like kind of the black metal I like, where it's fast but has nice slow parts, some grooves, some bounce. So I'll have to listen to more of their stuff along with Obscura, same guy from that band. Tenarowin has a new album out.
I'm seeing them on Monday.
Oh,
next Monday.
Oh, that's awesome. I'm going to be in Portland, unfortunately.
Oh, fuck. Yeah, I love Tenarowin.
Oh, they're so fucking good. Anybody that doesn't know this band, they're a Tuareg rock collective that performs desert blues. They're a group of people that inhabit the Sahara Desert.
Mm-hmm.
And the new album is just, it's so fucking good. It's definitely going to be in my year-end list. And they incorporated the banjo on this one, which surprised me.
Okay.
But it sounded really good.
I haven't heard the new album yet. I forgot that was out. But
oh, man, dude.
I'm going to listen to it before I see them live.
I'm so jealous you're going to see them. It's going to be fucking so good.
So I had tickets to see them right at the top of the pandemic, and they had to cancel.
Oh.
And then they were going to come around again and had to cancel. So it's finally happening.
Nice.
I saw Voivod, and the opening band was a local band called Imperial Triumphant, who I'd never heard of. Very
they're like kind of an avant-garde black metal band.
Yeah, they're like black metal but goofy.
they're very like jazzy and fast.
Yeah,
it's very like, it's kind of mathy almost. It's like almost like mathy black.
The
metal.
drummer is fucking amazing.
Yeah, they have like pretty insane timing. Like just like they're really tight. Like they clearly have to like be in like unison to play that shit.
Yeah, and then Voivod, of course, came out and just absolutely destroyed.
Still haven't seen Voivod.
Oof, do it.
Also, Kane surprise released a new album, and I am very happy that they are back at it making bleak ass music. It's fucking awesome. And Mournful Congregation put out the Exuviae of Gods Part 2, which is some of, if not the best funeral doom out there.
Oh, very good.
I also did go see Conan with Thra at St. Vitus, and that fucking rocked.
Yeah, I missed that one.
Oh, so good. Talked to John for a bit after the set. He was on an episode of Diary of Doom previously, and got the set list. So shout out to John for that. Yeah, other than that, I've just been playing a lot of Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, which is a fucking gigantic video game, and got back into reading the comic book series Grendel by Matt Wagner, which is very good.
I got a book. I haven't read it yet. Well, it's not really even a reading book. I got a cookbook called Mosh Potatoes, and it's recipes that band members use while they're on the road.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's like big name dudes too. Now hold on, let me go grab it. I'll bring it back. Oh yeah. So here it is.
Mosh Potatoes by Steve Seabury.
Got a mini cheesecake by Ronnie Monroe from Metal Church. Ryan Clark from Demon Hunter has a mashed potato sandwich. Ballsack from Guar's got one in here. Shrimp clits on grit cakes.
Shrimp clits on grit cakes.
Yeah. Nebula. A lot of good bands in here. Zach Wilde's got an Italian spaghetti sauce.
That one might actually be decent.
Yeah.
Sounds sensible.
John Bush from Armored Saint has a Trailer Park Shepherd's Pie. Blaze Bailey, sausage curry. I mean, can't go wrong. Lemmy has one in there. I don't want to give away that because it's actually a pretty good joke.
It's just a bottle. It's just a bottle of Jack Daniels.
It's just a bunch of shit and you set it on fire.
Well, that was Alone in the Dark and all the other good movies that we've been watching. Andy, is there? Do you want to plug your band and let people know where they can find out about Eat and whatever you're up to?
Yeah. You can find us on all the platforms. Type it in EAT, all uppercase. There was a British band called Eat, but it was all lowercase, and we didn't know about it when we named our band. I'm not naming. They broke up a long time ago, so fuck them. We got the name now. We're not like trying to steal their sound or nothing, so fuck them. Anyway, we have got 2 albums out. We are about halfway done writing our 3rd album. I'll be spending some time finishing that up here over the next couple of months. Try to get back in the studio. Yeah, that's about it.
And your frontman had a book coming out, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He wrote a comprehensive tell-all book about Metallica called the 2495 book. And it's really good. He's a very talented writer. He's a weird guy, but he's a talented writer.
It was for 33 and a third.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then he is currently writing for 30. Yeah. No, that was actually he had a publisher for that one. This one is his new one is he's writing a book about Body Count's Cop Killer album. And that is due out in September on 33 and a third.
Awesome.
So yeah, he's finishing up his 2nd book.
If you're interested in those, you can pick those up somewhere.
Yeah, no, the Metallica book you can find anywhere. It's in all the bookstores or online. And the other one will be in September. And if you want to follow us on the Instagrams, we're eat_the_band. And then you'll see a picture of me. And you'll go, I know that guy.
You can't actually eat the band, though.
Well, you could. I mean, we'd have to be unconscious. And you'd have to be really hungry. We're all pretty old, though, so don't expect much flavor.
It's all been wasted away.
Yeah. You got any shows coming up you're looking forward to?
Yeah, I'm actually going to be away in June, so I'll be catching the Decibel Tour while I'm there. So that's Dark Funeral, Cattle Decapitation,
nice.
Stab Wounds, and Black Braid. So that should be fun. Might try to see another show in Portland if there's something happening. I think Midnight is playing, so we might go to that. If there's anything that pops up like last minute, maybe. Other than that, I actually don't have a lot of things coming up for the summer, which is kind of nice, I guess, because I have a lot of photographs that I need to catch up on, editing and whatnot. I mean, we're going to see the Eels at the end of June. We're going to see Ludacra in the middle of the month. We might go to Kaiju Big Battle.
Oh, nice. My amazing girlfriend's friend Travis is the voice of Dr. Cube.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's very cool.
He stays at our house sometimes when they're in town.
Oh, that's awesome.
So I was looking ahead at some other this list on IMDb of heavy metal horror movies, and one kind of stuck out that I think maybe we should check out. It's called Spanish Chainsaw Massacre.
I've never heard of it.
Me either. A heavy metal band named The Dicks are touring to promote their first record. While driving to their next concert, their van gets a flat. So they have to spend the night in a small local town. Someone asks the Metal Dicks to join with the festival, and then everyone dies.
Sounds awesome.
Yeah.
Maybe we can revisit down the road.
Sure.
Awesome. You can visit my website at diaryofdoom.com. Check out the podcast along with my concert photography, or you can follow the podcast on diaryofdoom.podbean.com. You can follow Diary of Doom on Instagram at Diary of Doom, like it on Facebook. Subscribe and listen to the podcast on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, whatever shady podcast streaming app you want to use. All of the movies from Green Hell updates will be on all of those platforms. And if you want to suggest a movie for me to discuss on the podcast, you can fire off an email to diaryofdoom1968@gmail.com. Andy, thanks for coming on.
Hey, no, thank you for having me, man. I had a good time.
A lot of fun, despite the movie being utter shit.
Yes. Yeah, that fucking sucked. It sucked. Horrible.
Not sure what we'll be checking out next, but we can guarantee you that it will have some heavy metal, some marijuana, or some mix of the two, or it'll probably be really stupid. So
okay.
Until then, we'll
Great.
see you next time.
Bye.